In this video, we're going to be covering the switch statements in C# as it relates to Unity. On our previous example, we made a game object and we were dealing with the loops in C#. So now we got to create a C# script for our switch statement. So in our scripts folder, I'm going to go to create and I'm going to go up to C# script and I'm going to label this switch statements. And once that's loaded, on our empty game object, I'm going to add our switch statements. And then I'm going to go ahead and double click and open this up in our code editor. All right, so now that we've got our scripting file opened up, when it comes time for switches, they're used in placement of multiple if-else statements. So if you got different data that you're going to be checking over and over again, instead of checking for an if-else for all these different conditions, you can create a switch statement that takes one parameter that can check multiple outcomes and display that based on your need in your game. So we're going to go ahead and create a string variable at the very top. We can go ahead and do a public string, and then we can provide a name. So let's say for a character, and by default we'll say John is our character. And then here in our start method, we can go ahead and create our switch statement to run through. And if John is our character, then we can output some information, or if we decide to change that character, we can also print out the information based on that. So setting up the switch statement, you're going to use the keyword switch, followed by the open and close parentheses, which takes in a parameter, and we can do this with the character. So we're going to have this character variable that's going to be passed in here. So initially we'll use the name John, and then we can change this in the inspector to print out different information. So if the character matches the specific value, that's going to be a case. And then based on that, we can say John is the case we want to use, followed by a colon, and then let's just print out to the console. So I'm going to do a so we can say John, we'll say John was selected. So we'll print out that statement to the console, and then if that's the case, that's correct, we want to break out of the switch statement. We don't want to go through every iteration of all the different cases this could be, similar to an if-else statement where you're checking different values along the way. In a case statement, when it hits the value, it breaks out. And let's go ahead and put a couple more in here. So we'll do a case, and let's say this one here is Tom. And we can say Tom was selected. And then we got to make sure we break out of the switch statement. And then we can do one more case. And let's say it's Lenny. Now, what happens if you are checking values and you find out that none of the values match? you can put in a default that would print out some information letting the user know that no character was selected correctly. And so this will be a default statement that we can then print out in the case of if the character of John, Tom, or Lenny was not selected, then we can print out that information. So I'm going to go ahead and save my work here. Let's go hop back into Unity. And once we're back inside Unity, if you don't have your console opened up, or if you do have your console opened up, go and clear your console, go up to Window, go to General, and then go to Console so we can see the information being printed out. So if I go to my game object, currently the character is John. That was the default value we put into the name of the character. And so now we can see that in the inspector. And if I go ahead and run, and because John was the character, it's going to print out John was selected. So it found that very first case in our switch statement. So I'm going to go out of play mode. The next one we used was Tom. So if I change this to Tom for the character, go back into play mode, it's going to print out Tom was selected. So based on our scripting example where we had John and then Tom, it found those cases in the switch statement. Now what happens if I don't pick a specific character? Let's say I change Tom and I go to Anne instead. And if I press play, it's going to run through the switch statement and say invalid character selected. That's where that default case is being executed because it did not find the specific cases that you had set up previously. And so there we have our basic example of what a switch statement entails. Now this, you can use these for numbers, you can use these for different string values, floating decimals. The structure is the same. The data you passed in that you're checking for is based on your need inside your game development. I hope this helps with switch statements, and I'll catch you on the next video.